folks, welcome to Myers Metal Detectors, located in sunny Tampa, Florida, where we sell nothing but fun and adventures, treasure hunting gear, and anything you can imagine for metal detecting. Give us a call, 813-237-1939. Happy hunting and dig deeper.
Live from sunny Florida, it's Treasure Talk. Okay, we are live and kicking.
All righty, so welcome friends to another exciting edition of Treasure Talk. And I'm going to jump right in it because we've got an excellent guest tonight. And let me get started with today's show is brought to you by your friends at Myers Metal Detectors, where we not only sell fun, but we sell adventures. And the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed here by Treasure Talk, the guests and members, belong solely to the guests and members and not necessarily to Myers Metal Detectors, Phil Myers, Jocelyn Myers, or Jeff Monin. And of course, the purpose of Treasure Talk is to promote the hobby of metal detecting and treasure hunting and to educate our members in a fun, informative manner. And that's what we're going to do tonight. We have an excellent guest, don't we, Jeff?
Yes, we do. I think all of our guests are pretty excellent, but
They are.
Tonight it's Carrie and Russ's Excellent Adventure. Our guest tonight is the Queen of Research. Now, everybody always, I see all the questions flying and to and fro all the time about what's the best way to ask about permissions. I don't know how to do research to get a permission to metal detect. Well, tonight's the night. This show is going to help you learn how to research because this lady can research, let me tell you. And she gets some pretty fantastic permissions. So this show tonight is going to be the do's and the don'ts of research and getting permissions to metal detect. So this is probably the first time you've seen her. It will not be the last, I can promise you that. And if you do not know who she is, her name is Carrie Balberona. She is married to Russ Balberona, and we cannot fault her for that. But Russ Balberona is the Fisher rep, and she's the best part of that team. So what we're going to do, let's bring Carrie on here. Maybe she'll tell us some juicy tidbits. Now let's bring Carrie on. Hello, Miss Carrie.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Carrie.
We're good.
Welcome.
All right.
And I guess we're going to just jump right in it, right, Jeff?
Yeah. Unless she wants to tell us some stories about,
About Russ?
Yeah.
I promised him I wouldn't divulge anything, so I'm good there.
Well, I met Russ for the first time at our shop at our Fisher Days event, and he worked his butt off in some incredible heat. That's all I can say. It was just so hot. I just couldn't believe.
He had a wonderful time, though. He can't wait to go back.
Yeah, we couldn't have picked a hotter day. And it didn't rain, didn't cool anything down. It was just brutal hot. So,
well, we learned not to go to Florida in July for something like that.
Yeah, hats off to him for doing that. But let's get started right away. And the first question I have is, how did you come up with your YouTube channel name, Nail in the Foot?
So that was all Russ. That was all his doing. He did want to do something called Watch Your Step, because that's one of the things that we always say to each other when we're kind of traipsing around these locations. And that was already taken by like 50 other people. So he put that in. We didn't realize that when you initially search for that, you come up with a bunch of horrible other pictures. But if you are searching for our YouTube channel, Nail in the Foot, if you type in Nail in the Foot and the word ghost, then it'll bring you to some of our channels. So just a real quick background, besides metal detecting, Russ and I, for those of you who don't know, we have been traveling the country for the last 3 years in our RV, and we have been exploring some amazing places. It was Russ's dream to always be able to just travel and metal detect all the time. And we found some other really cool places along the way, and that's what we're sharing on our Nail in the Foot bit. We take photographs that we put up on Instagram. We have the YouTube channel as well as Facebook, and we give GPS coordinates of where to find those locations and stories behind those as well. But tonight, a lot of the methods that we do to find these locations are very applicable, and we have used them to find metal detecting locations. And I'm going to break it down into 3 groups, if that's okay with you. The first segment will be how we find the locations, how we go about getting the research to try to find these locations. The second bit I'm going to cover is who to contact. So once you've found your location, who do you contact to gain that permission? And then lastly, I'm going to really dive in on how you ask for that permission, how to go. There's a very special way to go about it, and I'm really going to dive deep into that. So how does that sound?
That sounds great.
Works for me.
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
feel free to interject at any time with any questions, because I do tend to talk a lot.
Okay.
We got questions.
Sure.
Yeah, we have a stack of questions, but you just go ahead and get started.
All right. So the first part of where to find locations. Now, work smarter, not harder, is my rule of thumb. And for people first starting out, where they get a detector, they don't know where to go, I always recommend get in touch with your local metal detecting club. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. There's a website. Because we travel all over the place, we obviously don't know all the metal detecting clubs. I go to mdhtalk.org, and you can go state by state and find a list of all the metal detecting clubs. Plus, they have a lot of other fantastic information there. And then also the GPAA, for people that don't know, that's the Gold Prospectors Association of America. If you become a member, you get a book of places all across the country, of places that you can go and detect if you are a member. So those are 2 places to start, just for those people that don't know. But I'm going to really dig in now on finding unique places. Hold on, sorry about that. So the first part I'm going to break down is finding locations that are still standing. So if you want to find a really old house, you want to find an old property, there are a couple ways to do it. And the first way is use social media. There's so much information out there. Social media approach, Google Maps. If you go into Google Maps, in the search bar, type abandoned near me. If you type that, you're going to get a list of some stuff that's not relevant, that's not any good, but there are really cool places that are found in there. They'll show pictures in there. You can do satellite imagery to zone in to really see what maybe the terrain or the roads or the access is to some of those places, or if it's even worth your while. Do the street view. I tend to use that a lot. Go to Instagram. Use the hashtags. Search by hashtags. Search by abandoned. Search by even haunted or even metal detecting. You might get to see places that people have gone to. Put them down on a list. YouTube. There's so many people putting out videos. Think outside the box. Look for historic places, haunted places, abandoned places, places that might be potential locations that you could approach and see if you could detect that property. We've found lots of places that way, and it won't give you just a list that, okay, it's ready. You're going to have to do a little bit more research beyond that. So once you find potential locations, then you can Google search, type in that name, type in that address, see what comes up on that. And typically you can find some old news articles, informational things, other people that have gone to visit these sites, and they give great notes about what that area may or may be like. Really play with the hashtags. Think outside your box, because what makes sense to you, somebody else might classify it a different way. So play with the hashtags. You'd be surprised what you come up with. Websites like shothotspots.com, or Urbex Underground. I use those places a lot because there's a lot of abandoned places people take pictures of. Shot Hotspots is a place specifically where photographers will go to take pictures. And so use that for your inspiration to find some of these locations. But let's dig even deeper now. How do you find a place that's not there anymore? Let's say an old military encampment or an old town that was supposed to be in an area, and you want to find that. I use historicmapworks.com. That's a fantastic website. If you haven't used that, what they do is they import old maps of an area, but you can put them, it allows you to put them on top of Google Maps and do a transparent, the opacity, you can change it. So you can see where an old military encampment was, or you could see where an old building or a house used to be in a given area based off of these maps. So those have been phenomenal. That helped Russ and I one time found an old military encampment by using that method. We had heard rumors that there was one in the area. We pulled out those old maps and it really helped us pinpoint, and then we found a really good area for us to search on that. But don't forget things like Sanborn maps. Sanborn maps are old fire insurance maps. You can find these. The Library of Congress has them online for a lot of places, or you could go to your local town. And what these are old maps of a town or an area, and it'll show you where the buildings were, where the streets were, where the houses were of a given area. Those are very helpful in areas where you have a rough idea of where a town might have been before, or buildings. And then thinking outside of the box. Now, the first one, some people might shake their head at, contact a historical society. Now, a lot of times a historic society, you may think that they look down on detectorists, but a lot of times they need help finding things. They have a location, and you could offer your services to help find things that could contribute to their museum or their effort that they're trying to do. So, and all they can say is no, but reach out to them. You never know, you might be surprised, and might give you access to some really cool places you might not have had otherwise. And real estate listings. Keep your eyes on properties in areas where you feel there's history, and then you can make a list. It gives you access. These people are leaving, they're selling the property. You may be able to get in there, and I'll tell you how in the next step. But the last one on finding locations, ask people. I cannot tell you how many times we travel places, and I'll go talk to the locals and I'll ask them, do you know if there's any old properties around here? What are the historic stories around here? Where are those locations? They love to give you the information. They will usually put you in touch with the people or tell you how to get in touch with people. So always ask if you're in an area that you haven't been before, or even in your hometown. You might be surprised what other people know about the area that you might not know. And then I guess the next question, or actually, would you like me to answer anything that I said? Because I know I ran through it a little quick.
Yeah, you ran through a lot of that real quick, and we had some questions already. And the one, I guess, on my list here was websites, and you ran through a lot of them, and they're asking. Yep. The first two we talked about were the website for the local clubs. That was FM.
That is mdhtalk.org.
Okay, so that would be for your local clubs. We have a local club here in Tampa, which I'm a member of, and of course our meeting is coming up on the 17th, and we have Captain Piz coming, so I had to put that plug in there. But at our local club, a lot of information you'll find that there, and of course the clubs in each area. I've been to probably 5 different metal detecting clubs, and you'll pick up a lot of information at those. But then you also said historicmapworks.com.
Yes. Historic Mapworks, that will give you the old maps that you can superimpose onto modern day maps.
Right.
They have a free and they have a paid for subscription that gives you extra benefits.
Right. And then I think on the Facebook group, somebody had typed in historic aerial photographs. I don't remember. I went by so fast I couldn't read it, but I'm
No,
sure.
so the other two I did was shothotspots.com.
Okay.
And then there's one called urbexunderground.com.
Yeah. And then you also mentioned the real estate lists, and that's a
Oh,
good
this
one.
is,
Yeah, real estate signs and builders.
yeah.
Actually, I have my wife call builders for me because she's better on the phone than I am, and you wouldn't believe the sites that she's got me on. I'm just always amazed.
Yeah, it's just you think outside the box, really. And, the worst somebody can say is no,
Oh,
but
right.
you'd be surprised a lot of times they say yes or they're willing to work with you on that.
Hmm.
Somebody wanted to know about the gold one that you mentioned.
Oh, the Gold Prospectors of America, GPAA.
.com, right?
Yes.
Okay, now I am correct. We had chatted about this briefly. And you are in the process of putting out a book. Am I not correct?
Yes. Well, thanks to you. You had asked.
I'm guilty.
Yes, Jeff is guilty, but it was a great idea. So I am working on it. It's just we've had a lot going on over the last several weeks, so I haven't been able to put as much work into it as I wanted. But you will be the first one to know when I have that all pulled together.
Okay, maybe we'll have it for Christmas.
Oh, I could definitely do it by then.
Okay, good, because Phil will stock it in the shop, and we'll get you bunches of orders.
All
Yes,
right, here we go.
and
Phil loves it when I spend his money.
oh well, we sell the book, so everybody's happy. The next question on my list, and I know you spoke about it, but how do you use it? Do you use Google Earth to look at potential sites?
Well, I use Google Maps.
Google
And
Maps.
then when I have the location, I do zoom in with the satellite view.
Cool.
And then I really, when able, I use the street view. So whenever you go to a location, and the big reason I do that is when we travel with an RV all the time. So I have to make sure accessibility, so we don't get stuck. So any of the places that you see where we've been, if we've gone there, then you should have no problem getting in and out of a place.
Okay. Easy enough.
With Russell driving.
All right. So I guess we covered a lot of the internet spots, and also they could go to their local library. And I know people have used it, members of historical society, and they do get access to places that we wouldn't normally get
Mhm.
access to because they're volunteering, and a lot of times the people don't want to keep everything, so
Right.
they get a lot of cool stuff that way.
Well, a lot of times people just want to be able to say they found something.
Right.
And with the Historic Society, the majority of the time, if they're trying to preserve a location and make it a museum, how cool is that? That something you found is being preserved. And usually, if you just say, oh, can my name be attached with it? So you might not get to keep it, but you still got access to find some pretty cool stuff. One last website before I forget, the Library of Congress, loc.gov. That is where you can get the Sanborn maps. That's SANBORN. And those are the old fire insurance maps.
Okay, cool. That would be an excellent site, especially if you're looking for properties over, 80 years old or more. That would be
Mhm.
excellent. All right, now we just had a question on Facebook. How about for our friends a little bit further north in Canada? Do you have any sites for them?
No, but they're next on my list because Russ and I hope to plan to venture up into Canada next year. We wanted to go this year, but with COVID, it didn't open up until much later. So, unfortunately, I don't have experience going up there.
Okay, all right, cool. Well, next year.
There we go.
Next year, absolutely. All righty, so you want to just keep going then?
Yeah, sure. So now that you've narrowed down, let's say you found a place that you want to detect. Now the tricky part is finding out who to reach out to. A lot of times you might drive by a really cool old building and you need to find out who to get a hold of. There's nobody there, so you can't knock on the door. The best way of finding out is contact the local county assessor office. And the majority of times you don't even need to call them. The majority that I've run into, 90% of them are all online now. You can go on, just like you're going to pay your property tax bill, you can log on to the assessor office and just type in the address. And then the address will usually show the name of the property owner that's on there. Now, they
Right.
don't usually have the phone number. Some places are a little behind and they still do have phone numbers on there, which is great. But you can do a quick search on social media to try to find more information about that person. But it gets you leaps and bounds ahead instead of just trying to guess who owned that property. And let me see right here. And then I talked earlier about going through a realtor. So you could go ahead and contact that realtor. That realtor could actually introduce you or put you in contact with the owner and be the liaison in between you as well. You could also really make good friends with the realtors because they could give you heads up on places or people that you should contact as well. But the assessor's office is the best way to find out who owns it. Other than that, you could check with local businesses in an immediate area or ask neighbors. But 90% of the time I do that just through the assessor's office.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the Hillsborough, I'm in Hillsborough County, and we have our Hillsborough County property appraiser, which is the same thing as
Mhm.
assessor. And all that information is on there, so that's an excellent source. And I'm sure it's the same way over most of the country.
It is. And
It's
so you'd be surprised.
absolutely.
So a lot of people are usually surprised when I mention that. They didn't realize that information is out there. But that puts you in touch with the person who has the authority to tell you yes or no, because you could find a place that maybe is currently rented out. Well, that person that's renting the property can't give you permission to do it technically, but the owner of that property could. So this way you just kind of cut through all that red tape and you get right to the person that has the authority to give you the right to go on there.
Yeah,
And it also gives you the property deed history. That's the other interesting thing. When you go through the assessor's office, you can try to find out a little bit more about the history of that property. Just because a place looks cool, you're better. It's better if you are more informed about what might be there when you're doing the research for that property. So seeing all the owners who owned it before, all that's on the assessor's records.
right. And I have a customer or a person on Facebook here. Janine Ballard is asking, what if there's no house on the property? And they could see that there, if there was a house on their
Yes.
property, they would know it. Because ours will go back to, I think it goes back to like 1919. And
Oh, wow.
they'll have the use of the property,
Mm-hmm.
what it was used for. So it might have been used for farming or whatnot. But all that information should be on there.
It should be, even if there's no house on the property. If somebody just owns a plot of land, it's assigned to somebody or a business or a corporation. So contact information should be available on there, whether there's a house or not.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, so after you've figured out who owns the property, then comes the really tricky part. And this is where I'm going to call upon, before I started traveling willy-nilly with Russ in an RV all over the country, my background was in higher education fundraising. And I'll tell you, if you think knocking on the door and talking to someone and asking for permission to detect is difficult, you try getting in touch with a complete stranger and asking them for $100,000 to a place they hadn't been to in 30 years. So I'm applying my fundraising tactics to the to metal detecting and gaining permission. So there is a little bit of a psychology to it. So many people focus on researching the property, and they don't realize that's only half of the work. You also need to research the person that owns the property, even just a little bit. But the more you know, the more you're informed, and the better chance you have at gaining that. Because in the back of the mind, in the back of their mind, they're going to be thinking, what's in it for me? You want to go in, you want to dig on their yard, but everybody, especially when it's a complete stranger, they're going to think, what's in it for me? So you have to keep that back of your mind. And the best way to approach that is know your audience, know the person that you are going to ask at least a little bit. And the reason why I say that is you have to start off, you can knock on the door and just ask. I saw earlier in the week somebody had asked a question, what's the best terminology to use? Do I say I'm a metal detectorist, I'm a detectorist, I'm a treasure hunter? What do you use? The best way to start these conversations, and I'm going to impress, even though COVID's going on, the best way to get this is in person. Second would be over the phone. Those are preferable because it's a lot harder to ignore you when you are right there versus an email that you can say you never got. So knowing this person is going to be right there in front of you. You can read their body language. You can see if they're open to it or not. So you can kind of pivot your conversation a little better. What you need to do is you need to train them in the conversation to answer yes to you. So that way, when you finally ask them the all-important question, can I detect your property? They're ready. They're used to saying yes to you. And you start off with little questions. So going back to how do you introduce yourself, you can use an example of say, hello, my name is Carrie. I'm an avid history buff and detectorist. And then you can kind of lead into a simple question that you feel that they would say yes to, whether it's about the weather or anything like that. But what you've done is you've told them you're a detectorist, but you didn't lead off with that. It kind of blended in there. So that way later on, it's not a surprise to them. You can tell them, I mentioned earlier, I'm a detectorist, and I'll explain more what that is. But ask them questions to which they will say yes. Yes, simple little questions, and then have a conversation, have a dialogue with them. Ask them if they know the history of their property, that you've been doing some research about it. Either they know it and they can give you more information, or they might not have a clue and be very interested and really kind of intrigued that you have investigated their property and continue the conversation on. And then it does another thing too, because if you mention you're a detectorist, but then you ask them different questions, they immediately might have thought, oh, he's going to ask to dig up my yard. But wait a minute, he didn't just ask to dig up my yard. You kind of threw their brain off a little bit because you're engaging them in some other conversation. So you're building that dialogue, you're getting them to say yes to you, and then they get to know you a little bit more in that conversation. So this way you're not some scary stranger that just comes up to the door. I mean, Russ has had me numerous times, just like you, Phil. He would send me in to go in because he thought I was less threatening to go and ask people for that. And it's about relationships.
Absolutely.
And you think about that, because if this is a property that you intend on even detecting more than once, you're going to build a relationship with this person. And earlier I mentioned how getting to know the person, do a little bit of research in advance. And the reason why I said that, and this is where it's going to come into play, you're leading up in your conversation to what I call the ask. And the ask is going to be, I want to detect your yard. Phrase your ask in an if-then type of scenario. And here's where you can offer them something. So if you know a little bit about that person, this is where you can offer them something that you think is of value to them. This is back to the what's in it for me. So for example, let's say that there's an elderly woman that lives on this pristine, never detected property, and it's got history. But she has a hard time maintaining her yard. If I could help you with your yard work, would you be willing to let me detect your yard every now and then? You know, to her, she's going to get some help. That's obviously maybe a need that she has. You're going to help her with that, and in return, she can give you permission to do that. Russ and I have run into situations where the person had always thought about metal detecting, didn't know about the history on their property, and was very interested. So we gifted them a metal detector and offered to teach them how to detect in exchange for giving us permission. We've had that permission for more than 5 years. So was the investment of an inexpensive detector worth it? Tenfold. So getting to know these people, kind of trying to clue in on what might be of value to that person, gets you ahead of the game. Now, let's say they say no. As a fundraiser, no was not in my vocabulary. No just meant try it a different way. So think about it that way. If they say no, you could come back and just ask them what if there is something else that they might consider in exchange for giving you permission. Maybe her grandson, the woman's grandson, was going to come mow the lawn and she's got that covered, but she does need help doing something else. So you don't know that, but she might offer that up to you.
Absolutely.
So that's something to think about. And then if they say no again, thank them for their time, but this is, maybe people might think it's a little too far, but it has worked well for me on numerous occasions. Thank them, leave, but that day write a personal thank you card and mail it to them. And the key thing about the thank you is you thank the time that they took to talk with you, and pick out a nugget of your conversation that you had so that they know you listened to them. And then tell them, if you ever change your mind, here is my contact information. You would be amazed. Maybe they weren't ready then, but a week or a month later, they may get in touch with you, because that card is so rare nowadays. How many people still send personal cards in the mail? Especially a stranger that might have come to your door to ask to metal detect. It's going to just stick out in your brain just that little bit more. And now they've got your contact information. So that if they let it sit for a little bit, they might rethink it and let you come back.
Absolutely. Well, while we're on that subject, when you do get permission, do you ever share your finds with the people?
Sometimes. So sometimes the agreement that you might have made with a person, we had made an offer, Russ and I, with the owner, that we would show them things that we found, and he could get his pick from whatever finds we had for that day. And usually it's, they're thinking when you first go to detect that you're going to find a buried treasure, like a big bucket of gold somewhere out there. But when they really see that you're finding firing pins and bullets and things like that, they're like, oh, no, you can keep it. To us, that's great. It's really cool. I got a 3-ringer, that's awesome. But but the majority of people out there, once they kind of see the majority of it, they might pass away, but they appreciate the offer.
Absolutely. Yes. I got on one of my best sites ever by actually offering to teach the person how to use their detector.
Yep.
And the guy never used the detector. And then offering to share the finds with him. And he told me, when I come to, and he was only interested in coins anyway, but when he came to the site, we would do a split, but most of the time he never even came. So
Mm-hmm.
And when he did, he took the coins. He didn't take the U.S. belt plate. He didn't take anything that I thought was just unbelievable.
Right.
And that's just how I did it. So
You know, and that's the thing. The fact that you offered that to him probably meant far more to
Right.
him than the fact that, you know, that you didn't wind up giving it to him because he didn't want it.
yeah.
Carrie, have you ever
Yes.
used during the conversations with the person, asked them, is there anything that, if they've lived there a long, long time, is there anything that you've lost possibly in the yard or your children lost in the yard that we could help you find? Because that happened with us. My two brothers from another mother, we were up at an old house, and she had gotten this gold Avon little container thing, and she had lost the top to it. She still had the bottom, but she lost the top, and I found the top for her.
Oh,
So
awesome.
she was happy with that. Sometimes they say, "Oh yeah, well I lost my yada 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 or whatever."
Well, you know, that goes in that conversation with starting that dialogue about the person. You know, if you really don't know where to start after you introduce yourself, you could mention that you've done the history on the property and then bring in, like what you said, have you ever lost anything? You know, I would be more than happy to help find that or locate that for you. And that's an excellent way to get in on a property that allows you to find other things. And if that person gets that cover back, they're more than happy to let you go and see whatever else you can find.
hmm Now, would you recommend as well as, like if you live in a medium to small town or whatever, when you knock on the door, you may not know that person, but when you introduce yourself, if you live in their town, I think it's probably a good idea to say, "Hey, my name's Jeff. I live right here in Madison," and
Mm-hmm.
yada yada yada. Go off for that. And that way, they know you're local.
Right. And if you are local and this person you don't know, when you're doing a little bit of research to find out who they are, and like I said, go to social media. There's so much information just people just put out there for free. You may realize that you know somebody in common. So you could either have that person reach out for you just to break the ice, or you could mention that person when you knock on the door and say, "Hi, I'm Carrie. I'm here in town. You might know, I think we have a mutual acquaintance by the name of so and so." Because what you're doing is you're building that relationship, you're building a connection between you and that person right away. And anything that you can do to that regard will get you that extra step in the door.
Yeah, the only time I wouldn't use that if there's a wanted poster out for you or something.
Yeah, I would advise against that as well.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
Not for me.
All righty. So you do offer then, that was one of the questions Jeff brought up about offering the search for people. I always tell people who give me permission to hunt, if you ever lose anything, feel free to call me anytime and we'll try to find it. If they've let me hunt on their property, especially builders, I always tell them if your workers lose anything on the job site, just holler at me and I'll come find it for them. So.
And that's fantastic because then they may in turn also tell their friends about it as well. If they've lost something, "Hey, I know this guy Phil, let me give him a call."
Yes. And it could get you onto some really nice sites.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. All righty. So you want to keep going with your presentation then?
Well, I feel like I should have had like a little whiteboard there or something.
Yes.
That's pretty much, I mean, I didn't really know how in depth I was going to need to go. So those are pretty much my key tactics that I use. Just getting comfortable in talking with the people, but do your homework in advance. One of the other things, now that I'm thinking about it, researching a location or trying to find locations. Also thinking outside the box. Now, I'm just pulling out, for example, Russ and I were out thrift store shopping and found this book. And it's the Historic Houses of Early America. I mean, going through there, it's showing all sorts of houses and just researching some of them. These houses aren't there anymore. But I know that something used to be there. So looking at old history books, old newspaper articles about an area that you're interested in might put you on something that you might not have thought of otherwise.
When was that book published? 'Cause
Good question.
that looked like an older book, so that looks like one that would be good for the metal detectorist library to have a book
Um,
like that. Absolutely.
1927.
Yeah, so if there were old houses then in 1927,
Right.
yeah, they probably might not exist, but you're given the, I guess, the location and everything in there, correct?
Oh yes, it has. In a lot of cases, it's got pictures of the properties, descriptions about the people that used to live there, what type of house it was, the acreage that it had. A lot of really good information. So I always keep my eye out um, for books. That's my downfall.
Well,
But
that's a good one to have. All right. Well, I still have some more questions here we can
okay.
ask you. And we covered this a little bit, but let's go back over to ask what is the best name to use when asking for permission to hunt a property? Treasure hunter, metal detectorist, coin hunter, etc.
So I tend to lead with detectorist. And the reason why I do that is not everybody is fully aware of that. So then it prompts the question, well, what is that? And then it allows you to explain what you do. One thing that I think would be helpful to, I know that a lot of people have often talked about trying to explain to a homeowner that you're not going to come into their yard with a big bulldozer or leave gaping holes. If you even video record yourself, you don't have to have a YouTube channel. Just record yourself on your phone doing a plug and showing how you do the plug, and then you put it back and say, this is what I will be doing and this is what it will look like when I'm gone. That might give the homeowner or the property owner a little bit of peace of mind, something that you could show to them. But I do tend to lead with the avid history buff and detectorist. So that way it kind of smooths it a little bit. And then that makes sense when I start going into the history of the house or asking them questions about the history.
Interesting.
We have a question from YouTube from Mark. Don't call me Shirley Thomas. He wants to know if Nail in the Foot is going to replace the roads we roam. And I know the answer to that, but you tell him.
No, it is not going to replace it. What we found was that when we tried to do some of those exploration videos or these abandoned places on the roads we roam, we got very little response from that audience. That audience is really interested about RVing. And in the audience, I also mean the YouTube algorithm. YouTube tries to pigeonhole what they think you are best at. And so those videos would just never get pushed. They would never get viewed. They would never get seen. So that's what prompted us to create the separate channel just for those exploration videos. As a matter of fact, we are going to the Hershey RV show next week in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Russ will be working booth 400 there for metal detecting, and he's leaving me to my own devices to capture lots of footage for the Roads We Roam RV channel.
Cool.
Chocolate.
Yes, lots and lots of chocolate.
I've been to Hershey, Pennsylvania myself. It's a nice place. Hey, we have a comment here from Mike Mayo, and he is saying you can also give them a small gift card. It goes a long ways.
Yes,
And
great
he's
idea.
further down, he says, we have a permission to a 75-acre site that we've been hunting 2 years, and we occasionally bring the guy a gift card. That sounds like a good idea. Also, I would suggest that people have a professionally printed business card to make
Yes.
them look professional, so that when they do talk to the people, even if they say no, they have their card, and like you said, send them a handwritten note thanking them for their time. That would go a long way, and put another card in the envelope with it.
Russ, when I was talking to Russ about this before, he's known several people that have done this, and I think it's a fantastic idea. We're probably going to adopt it as well. There are some property owners that are worried about liability. what if I let you on the property and you get hurt? Several people have put a little liability waiver statement on the back of their business card, and they hand it to the property owner. So then that way they can say, don't worry about it. Here, I'm waiving any rights in case I trip and fall and get hurt or anything. You don't have to worry about it at all.
Absolutely. That's a good idea also. And then another comment on Facebook, Mike also, he brings a spare detector in case somebody in their family wants to hunt.
That's smart. That is so smart.
Because often you'll have people who want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So excellent.
And sometimes I use a release form that I have printed up that they sign and I sign right there in front of them, and they keep a copy that releases them from all liability and everything. And it states that right on there. So
absolutely. So it looks like, Jeff, you got the little banner going.
I do indeed. I do indeed. Now, this is going to be a biggie.
Must be door prize time.
Well, it is giveaway time. Yes, it is. And this is going to be a really big one. As you may know, Russ and Carrie are both involved with Fisher metal detectors. So
I got my Fisher shirt on.
I know. You look sharp tonight, Phil.
I do. I got that from Russ when he was at the shop. So
Jeff, Phil's showing you up tonight.
I am.
He is. He is. Well, I had it was kind of, I wore mine when I was walking today, so it was a little gungy. So
okay.
Good
excuse. All right, we'll let it slide this time.
Well, that's the only one I've got. So.
Oh well, we'll have to rectify that, won't we?
Yes. At any rate, when we were doing Fisher Days at Myers, Russ and I were talking, and he decided that for this show we should be giving away an F11 metal detector. So that is what we're going to do. And I know there was one more question that didn't get asked, but we'll make sure it gets asked before the end of the show. So how we do this is I post it on YouTube and I post it on Facebook. And by the way, this stream is now going live to my new Facebook group page, the Blue Spade Society, for all those that may have an affliction or a disability of some kind. It's a group strictly for those that are disabled and that type of thing. So if you are disabled or a caregiver, and a disability doesn't have to be loss of limb or anything. It can be, like you were on the job and you suffered from some condition and you can't work anymore. You're disabled. So maybe metal detecting can help you. But at any rate, how we're going to do this is I posted all over and you entered. And you had to use the phrase, which the phrase was, I will subscribe to Nail in the Foot. So we got 250 entries total. Between the two, and we're fixing to announce the name. And when we do, you have to be present to win. You got to be tuned in to win. You'll have 3 minutes to text either Phil or myself. Our numbers are scrolling across the bottom of the screen, or Facebook Messenger us. Then, when you text us, don't just say I'm here. You got to tell us who you are, so we'll know.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the process is you email me your info to treasuretalkshow@gmail.com, and we get your prize out to you. So let's look at the clock on the wall at 7:49. So Billy Keene, if you are watching, you won an F11 metal detector, my friend. So you got 3 minutes to text or Facebook Messenger, either Phil or myself, by 7:53 or 7:52. It's gone to somebody else, and I got their name.
All right. Well, come on, Billy. Let's get that. That's an excellent door prize for sure.
Indeed, it is. So the question I know that needs to be asked.
And I was going to ask it, Jeff. You go ahead and ask it. Since you know.
Go ahead. It's on our list. Make sure you know which one it is.
Okay, it must be this one here from Tim Naylor.
That's the one from the Mumbles, man.
What's her chili recipe?
It's kind of like giving away a metal detecting spot. I can't share that.
Yeah, I can't give that away.
However, if you are at Dig Stock this year, I am making an extra big batch. It'll be first come, first serve. Whoever can make it over to the First Texas booth will be able to get that, as well as nice hot coffee every morning.
So yeah, so that's a real good reason to go to Digstock, and I know we have a lot of members who are going there because I saw it posted already. So go over to First Texas and look at the Fisher detectors and get some chili then.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what's that coffee you guys drink? You guys
Bob's
gotta,
Mug Coffee.
yeah, you gotta send me a link to that, Carrie.
I certainly will.
I
And
need
what
to get me some
what we
good
love
coffee.
about it, they're really good friends of ours, and they donate a hefty portion of their proceeds with every purchase to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And
Very
we
cool.
recently joined forces with them and another RV group, the Travels with Delaney. They're very good friends of ours, and we raised over $12,000 for Make-A-Wish this
Very
year,
nice.
and that was all through Bob's Mug Coffee. Fantastic coffee, and well worth their support. So I'll bring you some, Jeff. Don't worry.
Okay, I want that link because I'm about ready to buy some coffee and I need to find some good one. So I wonder, Billy, you got about a half a minute left, my man.
It's not on my phone, is it? Huh? Give me my phone. Just to make sure.
So I don't know if he's watching tonight or not. So
Might have missed it.
he might have missed out.
Oh no.
He'll be kicking himself.
He will.
Okay, as soon as it flops over to 752, I got another name raring to go. So get y'all's figures. 752, Billy. Sorry, dude. Okay, Robert Ridgway. You want a detector? You know the drill. Text or Facebook Messenger. The number's going across the bottom of the screen. 3 minutes with your name.
You don't mess around, Jeff, do you?
Yeah,
Nope.
we have to go quick. Absolutely. All righty.
Now we were going to have, Russ was wanting you to make chili for Fisher Days at Myers. It's probably, what probably wouldn't have been a 98-degree heat.
Yeah, that wouldn't have,
Yeah,
that
I don't
work.
think you would have
You need some
appreciated
ice
it as
chili.
much.
Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't have worked.
So, oh well, what are you going to do? What are
I
you
will
gonna
make
do?
sure the next time we get down there, if the temperature's at least below 100 degrees, then it'll be okay. We can make some.
Well, I think you guys are just something to do. You're just doing a house or something, so you couldn't go along
Right.
on that trip. So,
Yes. Now, Russ, did Russ say you have family down here? Or is it his family that's down here?
His family. So his
Oh.
mother lives down in Hernando.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right up the road from us. That's not too far. About an hour, I think, from us.
yeah, not too far. You never know. We may see him in November. We just don't know.
So going back to getting the permissions, and we talked. You say you're a detectorist, then correct? You don't.
It's not as experienced as Russ by any means, but he finally, after years and years of begging me, got me into the hobby.
Yeah, because our metal detecting club had treasure hunter on the business card, and I had a member tell me he got turned down from a permission because he was using the business card, because our business card is the West State Archaeological Society. That's the name of the club.
Oh.
And he was using that, and then he said the person was all fine, and then they read at the bottom treasure hunting, and it turned them off.
Mm-hmm.
So in my past job, I was a commercial printer. So real quick, I took that off the business card so we wouldn't run into that problem again. But it's very wise to have the right name when you're talking to people. Because I think treasure hunting, it might be fine if you're a salvager like Captain Fizz. And it looked like I just got a note from Robert Ridgway saying, I subscribe to Nail and Foot on YouTube.
He's the winner. So
congratulations.
Yeah, so he's the winner. So he needs to email us his information so we can get that out to him. But
yes,
congratulations, Robert. Anyway, back to my my story. Yeah, we took that off the card because if it says treasure hunting it's different if you're Captain Carl Fismer than if you're a guy asking to hunt on a farm site or a home
Right.
site. It's a total different thing there. So I guess it's wise to be just detectorist or metal detectorist or history buff, whatever you feel comfortable with using, I would think.
Yeah, Detectorist, I think, has always kind of invited more conversation. The people, what does that mean exactly? And then you can kind of explain to those people anything that you can kind of get them to continue the conversation with you instead of just shutting the door and saying no to you. You won. So
Right. And what about I guess if you're in somebody's yard, you're going to use a different set of tools than if you're out in a field or a pasture.
right.
You know, you
And
said,
I wouldn't approach the door with all your equipment in hand either.
Right.
I mean, you see that TV shows, The Detectorists, where they both go walking up and they talk to the owner and they've got everything with them. You could, but sometimes that's off-putting to the people right at the beginning. So kind of leave that in your car, leave that in your vehicle until you've had the conversation with them.
Yeah, because if you walk up to the door and you got your spade in your hand and your detector in your hand, and you've got that hand digger strapped around you and all that kind of stuff, 9 times out of 10, when you knock on the door, you'll see them peel back the curtain a little bit or
Mhm.
something. And if they see you with a spade in your hand or something, they ain't answering the door.
Right, they've made that decision already before they've opened that door.
Yeah, and be clean. Don't go up there looking grubby like who'd have thought it. That ain't going to do you any good.
Right.
yeah. So don't go after you've gone to one site and got totally trash looking. And like in our heat, we look like we're melting. So don't
And
go
don't be
there.
boozed up either.
But what?
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't be boozed up. Some
Don't be
people
boozed up.
they're boozed up all the time.
Yes, don't be boozed up. Good point.
That's the
Absolutely.
key takeaway for the day. That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
right.
Dress nice, dress appropriate, and have a professional business card. And if you don't get the hunt there, just send them a thank you note anyway. That's what I take away from it,
There you go.
for sure.
Well, it's the clock on the wall, Philip.
Is it? Is it that time already?
It
It
is.
certainly is.
Well, I wanted to say hello to my friend Phil Ask, and he's on, I guess, Facebook then, huh?
Yes.
Yes, and hopefully he'll come to the Tampa Metal Detecting Club meeting, and hopefully one day we can have Russ be a speaker at the meeting. You have to coordinate it, him coming to visit his family, and we'll get him to be a speaker at our metal detecting club.
Well, I know he's watching, so I'll have him get back in touch with you.
Yes, absolutely. He could show off all the Fisher products for sure at the meeting. And the meeting is Tuesday. I'm going to just take a second and do this, Jeff. Tuesday, September the 17th. And it's at the ACCI building. We have a new location. You can see that on the WSAS.club Facebook page and website. It's Tuesday the 17th, isn't it?
Tuesday.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
think it's the 20-something.
Is it? Am I saying the wrong day? Uh-oh, this is really bad. But I did want to thank you, Carrie, for, yes, I did give the wrong date. Holy cow. It's the 21st of
I
September.
don't even drink.
I don't drink, but it's still September the 21st. It's Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. And Carrie, thank you for coming on and doing the show with us today.
Thank
It was
you.
really nice. I think the members would get a lot of information from you. And there was a lot of websites that Carrie went over. You can play this tape back on YouTube or back on Facebook and hear it all again if we went over it real fast. But thank you for doing it, and say hello to Russ for us.
I certainly will. Thank you.
And thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Jocelyn, for handing me the questions. And Jeff, I'll let you close it out.
All righty. Well, Carrie, we can't thank you enough. Everything you said was just super, super important. And I know that you're working on the book. And as soon as you get it done, we'll make sure that we splash it all over the place. And people can order one, hopefully for Christmas. It'd be great. Tell Russell we missed him tonight. We saw him lurking. And we know he never goes to the door boozed up.
No.
But we want to thank you so much for stopping by tonight and sharing this information because it's invaluable information.
Well, I hope
Now,
that helps.
next
Thank
week,
you.
it just certainly did. I just by looking at the comments, it certainly did. So now next week, I won't be here for the next 2 weeks. I am going to be flying across the pond next Monday, the 13th, for 2 weeks of metal detecting in Essex, England, with the Mumbles Man and Dan Graham and Sal Gutt, Tuso, and a couple other folks. So later on in the year, Sal Gattuso will be back on with Diggin' Hub and to tell you all about how you can get involved in these things. So the Guru will be flying solo. So he will be here next week with Jimmy Crossbones. And in the week after that, he will have Steve Moore and Vaughn Garrett from Garrett Metal Detectors on. So it's going to be great, great 2 shows. Make sure you're here. And Phil will handle it. Y'all won't miss me at all. But I'm going to be digging gold coins. And I'm even taking with me nice Myers Metal Detectors towels for all the other people to use as crying towels when I find a gold coin.
Find the gold coin, Jeff.
Kind of guy I am. You
Good
know.
luck.
Text it to me for sure.
I certainly will, over and over and over.
And Russ says stop by the booth and say hello. I guess that's at Digstock. So
Yep.
Yeah, and for anybody that's in the Hershey, Pennsylvania area at the
or
RV
maybe
show,
stores.
booth 400.
Booth 400 in Hershey, PA. And what is the date of that?
The 13th, or actually the 14th through the 19th.
Okay.
And bring Russ a chocolate bar. He likes them with almonds, I think.
He does. Very good. You remember.
So bring Russell a Hershey's with almonds, please. Thank you. All righty,
right.
we're out of here.
All right,
Carrie,
Jeff.
kiddo, said Russ, we said hello. Philip,
Will do.
I'll talk at you later.
All right. Talk with you tomorrow, Jeff. Thank you,
All right,
buddy.
man.
All
Good
right.
night, everybody.
Bye now. Good night.